ni sauti yako, nikasafiwe kwa damu ya kuangikwa kwako.
Today we contemplate the mystery of Holy Saturday, the day of great silence and joyful expectation. Just as God rested after creating the universe, so did the sun rest.
Pope Leo XIV says that Saturday is holy, it is the seal of God. But dear friends, there is a hidden sinister agenda. Ecclesiastes 1 verse 9. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun.
This rest is the seal on the completed task. It is the confirmation that what should have been done has truly been accomplished. It is a repose filled with the hidden presence of the Lord. This rest is the seal on the completed task. Holy Saturday is also a day of rest. Holy Saturday is also a day of rest. No work is to be done on the seventh day. Indeed, after the 6 days of creation, God rests. Now the Son too, after completing His work of salvation.
The Pope right now is promoting 2 Sabbaths. Why? Bear with me, dear friends, as we read Great Controversy. Listen to what Great Controversy says. In the early part of the 4th century, the Emperor Constantine issued a decree making Sunday a public festival throughout the Roman Empire. It would promote the nominal acceptance of Christianity by pagans and thus advance the power and the glory of the church. But while many God-fearing Christians were gradually led to regard Sunday as possessing a degree of sacredness, they still held the true Sabbath as the holy of the Lord and observe it in obedience to the 4th commandment. What happened in Constantine's time? There were 2 Sabbaths. Constantine as an emperor is promoting 2 Sabbaths. Oh, just like Pope Leo right now, promoting both Sabbaths, the biblical and the counterfeit. Why in prophecy you find both Sabbath promoted? Let us continue reading from Great Controversy. In nearly every council, the Sabbath which God has instituted was pressed down a little lower, while the Sunday was correspondingly exalted. Thus the pagan festival came finally to be honored as a divine institution, while the Bible Sabbath was pronounced a relic of Judaism, and its observers were declared to be a curse. Great Controversy. Now, in Constantine's time, you have 2 Sabbaths, but one will be exalted and one will be forgotten. And what will be forgotten? The Sabbath that the Lord said, remember. This is the reason why our key text is Ecclesiastes 1 verse 9. History now is repeating itself. When Constantine were promoting both Sabbath and gradually buried and forgotten the Sunday law was declared by the emperor after this. So you have 2 Sabbaths. The Sabbath of the Lord in the Bible was buried, and then the Sabbath of man-made apostasy were exalted. Then Sunday law came, 321 AD. Dearest friends, kindly share this important prophecy update. Breaking news. Trump declares National Sabbath to mark 250 years of independence. Timeofisrael.com says. Trump calls on U.S. Jews to dedicate next Shabbat to America's 250th anniversary celebration. Notice that he is promoting the Shabbat for the Jews. May 5, 2026. In his Jewish American Heritage Month proclamation, U.S. President Donald Trump calls on U.S. Jews to dedicate next week's Sabbath, Jewish Sabbath, May 15. And the culmination will be May 17. And the culmination will be May 17. And the culmination will be May 17 to the national celebrations of America's 250th anniversary. I quote, "Throughout historic year, we rejoice in the triumph of the American spirit and rededicate ourselves to the cause of liberty and justice for all," writes Trump, in special honor of the 250 glorious years of American independence. And on the weekend of Rededicate 250, a national jubilee of prayer, praise, and thanksgiving, Jewish Americans are encouraged to observe a national Sabbath. Rededicate 250 is a Christian gathering in Washington on Sunday, May 17, that will be attended by GOP officials and prominent Christian clergy. I quote, "From sundown on May 15 to nightfall of May 16, friends, families, and communities of all backgrounds may come together in gratitude for our great nations," writes Trump. "This day will be recognized as the sacred Jewish tradition." Underline that, dear friends. The sacred Jewish tradition of setting aside time for rest, reflection, and gratitude to the Almighty. Trump also calls on Americans to celebrate the heritage and contribution of Jewish Americans and to observe this month with appropriate programs, activities, and ceremonies. JPost.com says, Trump urges U.S. Jews to observe a national Sabbath in honor of America's birthday, 250th birthday. The suggestion was made during his Jewish American Heritage Month proclamation last Monday. U.S. President Donald Trump encouraged the Jews to celebrate the national Sabbath in honor of America. Celebrating a national Sabbath, he says, to honor the countless contribution of Jewish Americans throughout history. Dearest friends, 2 Sabbaths will be promoted on the weekend of May 15 to May 17. Here is what the media is not telling you. Here is the sinister agenda behind this proclamation. Sunday Sabbath, I put in quotes, because the Bible does not commend or promote Sunday Sabbath, Sunday worship as the holy day of God. It does not. Judeo-Christian values support and defend Judeo-Christian principles. We have to wake up, dear friends. This is a wake-up call. This is the actual proclamation on May 4th, Jewish American Month 2026. It says, in special honor of the 250 glorious years of American independence, and on the weekend of Rededicate 250, a national jubilee of prayer, praise, and thanksgiving, meaning May 17 will be a day of worship. You have prayer, praise, and thanksgiving, and then the Jewish Sabbath for the Jews. Jewish Americans are encouraged to observe a national Sabbath from sundown on May 15 to nightfall on May 16. Friends, families, communities, all backgrounds. Did you catch that? Of all backgrounds, not only Jewish, may come together in gratitude for our great nation, America. This day would recognize the sacred Jewish tradition of setting aside for rest. Underline what the article says is very intentional. To recognize the sacred Jewish tradition of setting aside for time, rest, reflection, and gratitude to the Almighty. Do you see how both Sabbaths, so-called, are going to be promoted on the same weekend? 2 Sabbaths, one for the Jews, as Donald Trump proclaimed, one for the Jews, Trump proclaimed, and one for Christians. It's as if we're all focusing only on Trump promoting May 17. May 17 as a prelude. Prelude as a precursor of July 4th, America's birthday. Listen, dear friends. Trump headlines. President Trump becomes first U.S. president to call for national Shabbat. The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, IFCJ, is a non-profit organization committed to building bridges between Christians and Jews. You know the headlines. May 5, 2026, Trump becomes first U.S. president to call for national Shabbat. Not Sabbath, but Shabbat. He intentionally uses the Hebrew word Shabbat because he is addressing only the Jews. According to the Jewish tradition, in it, President Trump called on Americans to observe the Sabbath throughout an official proclamation. The issue here is not that the government acknowledges the Sabbath or recognizes the religious liberty rights of Jewish people to worship freely. The real concern is that the federal government has crossed a significant constitutional and prophetic line by issuing a national religious appeal connected to a sacred day of worship. By issuing a national religious appeal connected to a sacred day of worship. The first problem with President Donald Trump's proclamation concerning the Sabbath is that it relegates the seventh-day Sabbath to nothing more than a Jewish tradition. Do you see that, dear friends? All of our friends in the live chat, do you understand? His official proclamation regarding Sabbath observance titled Jewish American Month 2026 presents the Sabbath as something ethnic. As something ethnic and cultural, while it is biblical, written by the finger of God in the fourth commandment. But here you see this, that it is something ethnic and cultural within the Jewish community rather than acknowledging its biblical origin and universal significance. Notice the proclamation again. In special honor of the 250 glorious years of American independence and on the weekend of Rededicate 250 and national prayer, praise, and thanksgiving, Jewish Americans are required to observe a national Sabbath. This day will recognize the sacred Jewish tradition of setting aside for reflection. Dearest friends, what would be the Sabbath for Christians then? Sunday. Would there be a national proclamation of a Sabbath for Christians next? Yes. Would there be a national proclamation of a Sabbath for Christians next? Yes. The Bible teaches that the Sabbath was never intended for the Jews, but for all people. The Sabbath was established as creation before there was ever a Jewish nation. When God rested on the seventh day, blessed and sanctified it for mankind. Jesus himself declared that the Sabbath was made for man. The Greek word man, anthropos, revealing its universal nature and showing that it was not established merely for one ethnic group, but for the entire human race. The fourth commandment was written by God's own finger into his eternal moral law, placing the Sabbath alongside commands against murder, theft, adultery. And Jesus calls the Sabbath my holy day. Isaiah 58 verse 13, showing that it belongs to him, not to one nation. The attempt to label the seventh-day Sabbath as only Jewish has been one of Satan's most effective deceptions to turn the world away from God's true memorial of creation. Oh, how the Baptist Church, Pentecostal, Born Again, and all the YouTube Christian channels out there love this argument that the Sabbath is for the Jews, while Jesus says it is for man. When a sitting U.S. president calls upon the nation to observe or honor a holiday, government is no longer protecting freedom of religion. It has crossed the line into forbidden territory by decreeing a day as sacred. If a president can encourage a national Sabbath observance for the Jews, a small minority, many will naturally ask, why should there not also be a national Sunday observance for Christians who are in the majority? Oh, in the name of faith, morality, family, values, national unity, or the common good. Just like what Pope Leo is always addressing the Sabbath for the common good. In the context of governments declaring or promoting holidays, the concern is that once civil authorities officially recognize, encourage, or call the nation to observe a sacred day, they establish a legal, quote-unquote, precedent which is valid in a court of law. That government has a role in religious observance. Once that precedent is accepted, future leaders, lawmakers, courts, and religious groups can point back to earlier actions as justifications for expanding similar measures. What was once considered unconstitutional government involvement in religion gradually becomes viewed as acceptable and even beneficial for society. Now we see Revelation 13:12. And he exercised all the power of the first beast, the papacy, before him, USA, and forced the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Dearest friends, kindly share this important prophecy update. And here's our appeal today. Do you reject the authority of the first beast? Do you reject the authority of the second beast? Kindly type our decisions today. I reject the counterfeit Sabbath.